Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. 4 years ago, a hate parade of people marching in Charlottesville ended in a shocking vehicular homicide. Today, there was a verdict in that deadly Unite the Right rally. A jury has found that organizers who helped to plan that white supremacist rally must now pay $26 million in damages to individuals who were hurt that day. One of the defendants is currently serving a life sentence for ramming his car into protesters and killing 32-year-old Heather Heyer. This all comes at the very same time that we are also dealing with another vehicular homicide, this one taking place at a Christmas parade in Wisconsin on Sunday. But the politics around these two events and these men who did really horrible things and killed people are completely different. 39-year-old Darrell Brooks, the alleged driver of the SUV in Wisconsin in the tragedy, appeared in court today for the first time. He was charged with 5 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, each of which carries a possible life sentence. His bail is set at $5 million. Prosecutors announced the death toll has now risen to 6. The latest victim is a child. More than 60 other people are injured. Police say Brooks was involved in a domestic disturbance just before he drove into the crowd. He has a lengthy criminal record going back to 1999 and is a registered sex offender. He was out on bail and awaiting charges for allegedly attempting to run over the mother of his child earlier this month, reportedly with the same SUV. Here's what has not been confirmed but is a narrative of right-wing agitators online. According to the Daily Beast, scores of accounts, some with hundreds of thousands of followers, either insinuating or stating outright that Brooks was in some way a member of Black Lives Matter or had been inspired by the civil rights group. Others suggested, without evidence, this was the first shot in a looming race war, or that Brooks' alleged crimes were somehow an act of retribution days after Kyle Rittenhouse was declared not guilty. The politics and reaction around what happened in Charlottesville in 2017 and what happened this week in Wisconsin could not be more different. And it illustrates our partisan divide when it comes to violence and violent men in our society. Joining me now to discuss is the founder of One People's Project, Daryle Lamont Jenkins, and reporter at NPR, Cheryl Corley. Cheryl, I want to start with you just to bring us up to speed on what we know now about the alleged perpetrator who drove his SUV into this crowd. What happened today in court, and what more do we know about any political motivations or connections that he may have had?
Yeah, well, Charles, we really don't know much about his motivation at all. I know that there has been a lot in the on the web and throughout the internet about, his ties to BLM and all of that. But we really don't know what caused Darrell Brooks to allegedly use his SUV to cause such carnage in Waukesha Sunday. So what happened in court today is that he was officially charged with 5 counts of intentional homicide. And today was really just the formal process of doing that, which is the typical procedure in criminal cases. And the criminal complaint stated that Darrell Brooks intentionally caused the death of 5 victims and could face life in prison if he was convicted. And it also gave a very detailed account of what happened that Sunday. With that Brooks drove his SUV into people participating in Waukesha's annual Christmas parade, even after police tried to stop him, including one officer who actually shot at the vehicle and hit it three times. And according to the complaint, witnesses said that the driver kind of zigzagged through the parade, avoiding vehicles, but hitting participants in the parade and spectators, and killing what we now know 6 people. The latest victim, an 8-year-old boy, and injuring more than 60. State's attorney Susan Opper said there would be another count of intentional homicide filed either by this Friday or early next week to take into account the 6th death. She also talked about this extensive criminal history that you kind of alluded to in the opening, that he has had multiple arrests in 3 states, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia. They included counts of battery, sexual seduction in Nevada, bail jumping, domestic battery, accused of hitting the mother of his child in the face with his fist and then running her over with the same car allegedly used in the incident that occurred on Sunday. He was charged November 5th in that incident, and his bail was set at $1,000. He posted bail and was released from police custody just a few days before the event on Sunday.
Right. Darrell, one of the interesting and striking things to me is not that there aren't bad actors, regardless of race, all across the country, wherever in every community. The interesting thing to me is how people respond and the differential in how people respond. There is no president saying we, looking for some sort of, good actors around this alleged perpetrator here. There are no black media or liberal media holding this person up as a hero in any way. But that is exactly what has happened with many of the kind of white vigilantes who were violent, also led to death. Whether or not those deaths were ruled murders or not, the people were still dead in the end. Talk to us a little bit about the kind of political dynamic around violence, violent men in society, and how some, are lifted up and so seen as heroes and others are not.
Well, I think the reason why you see that on the base of it is simply because a lot of people have been frustrated to the point that they will lash out in this way. But lionizing them generally comes from those individuals who are trying to just rally the troops, so to speak. And they do, when you're talking about folks on the right, for example, you're talking about individuals who are calling for a civil war, who think that the country is not going to ever go in the direction that they have been accustomed to over 200 years. And they are trying to encourage their base, so to speak, to act in this regard because it is the only way that they are going to achieve whatever goals they have. That's why they're coming out with so many lies about what is going on out there. They're turning what happened in Wisconsin a couple of days ago into a political event when it really wasn't. This is not about race. It is not about politics. And contrary to what they're saying, the media has been talking about it relentlessly for the past couple of days now. But it doesn't matter. One of these characters on Telegram was saying that this is bigger than Charlottesville. No, it's not. It is a case where a criminal who really honestly should not have been out on bail ended up killing 6 people, and he's going to be held accountable for it, allegedly killing 6 people. And if he is found guilty, he will be held accountable for it. That's simple.
Sure. I wonder if you could give us some insight into the reaction that you are seeing on the ground in the community that's most directly affected. There's clearly a massive amount of mourning, people in shock, as one should expect. But do they see it through a political lens?
I haven't talked to anybody that has said that at all. I think there is a lot of anger about this happening. I think it's all directed at Darrell Brooks. I think that, as you said, there's a lot of mourning that is going on. And I think people are really just in a quandary about why this actually occurred. I think there's also some anger over the fact that he was out on bail. And you have a lot of folks who are talking about, maybe we need to have an investigation about how bail is handled. But I haven't heard from people on the ground here any speculation about this being a kind of political event. And even at the press conference that the police held on Monday, they were very firm in saying that this was not any sort of domestic terrorism, they didn't see it as any kind of political, a man with a political agenda, or anything like that at all. So I think people are just angry that, it occurred, and mourning as well.
Darrell, last question here, probably have about a minute left. Are you worried that people might try to Willie Horton this situation, to take one horrific thing and project it onto a community and to try to make it the front for all issues related to crime and policing and people, one party or both parties being too soft on crime? Are you worried about that? Because it feels in the early days that the impulse is to keep trying to make this person in this vehicle bigger than just him and what he has allegedly done.
Well, it was funny because I tweeted out yesterday how the same people who were trying to prevent us from teaching our children the contributions that Black and brown people have made throughout history in this country are now trying to make the argument that Black criminals are not in the media enough. We know that they're trying to Willie Horton it. It is what they do. The problem that they have today as opposed to 1988 is that we are in a better position to push it back. We can basically counter anything that they throw at us. Like I said, there is nothing that validates that charge when it comes to what happened a couple of days ago. Nothing. And the problem that they're going to have is that it just makes them look worse. It really does just make them look worse. And we'll handle it. We will handle it.
Right. Daryle Lamont Jenkins and Cheryl Corley, thank you both for joining me tonight. Very illuminating segment.